everyone. Welcome to the program. I'm Megyn Kelly, and we begin this Thursday morning with a story that shook the nation to its core and is now back in the headlines. Two families of Sandy Hook victims have just filed two separate defamation lawsuits, taking a stand against controversial Infowars radio host Alex Jones. One lawsuit was filed by the parents of Noah Posner. The other was filed by Neil Heslin, whose son Jesse was just 6 years old when he was killed. The parents are fighting back now against what they say has been years of mental anguish caused, they say, by Jones's long history of harassing the Sandy Hook families. For years, Jones has been making claims that the Sandy Hook massacre was a hoax and that the parents and the media were acting. And it is not just Sandy Hook. Jones has taunted many other grieving families over the years. He has said that the September 11th terror attacks were an inside job. More recently, he claimed that Parkland's Stoneman Douglas shooting, that the survivor David Hogg, he says, was a crisis actor. During the 2016 campaign, President Trump admitted that he was a fan of Alex Jones's and even appeared on his radio program. Prior to our NBC News piece on Jones last summer, the Trump White House had actually been pushing out information taken directly from Infowars. In their newly filed lawsuit, Noah Posner's parents say that Infowars defamed them by claiming that Noah's mother faked an interview in Newtown with CNN's Anderson Cooper just a week after the shooting. Alex Jones repeatedly claimed that Anderson Cooper was not actually even in Newtown, Connecticut, conducting interviews with the grieving parents. And less than a year ago, Jones was still calling into question the credibility of those interviews. Watch.
They glitch. They're recycling a green screen behind him. When he turns, his nose disappears repeatedly because the green screen isn't set right.
Something that can happen to any anchor when you're reporting live from the field. There's a video glitch. It has nothing to do with the green screen. Neil Heslin, too, has been a repeated target of Infowars and had a message for Alex Jones when I interviewed Neil last July.
I lost my son. I buried my son. I held my son with a bullet hole through his head. I dropped him off in 904. That's when we dropped him off at school with his book bag. Hours later, I was picking him up in a body bag.
Because nothing is sacrosanct to Alex Jones, he and his team renewed their attacks on Heslin and others last summer, again claiming that Neil is a liar. Take a listen to their show.
Fact checkers on this have said cannot be accurate. He's claiming that he held his son and saw the bullet hole in his head. That is his claim. Now, according to a timeline of events and a coroner's testimony, that is not possible.
The coroner said none of the parents were allowed to touch the kids or see the kids, and maybe they, meaning at the school. I'm sure later maybe the parents saw their children. The point is that because the media lies so much, you can't blame the public asking questions, and you can't ban free speech of people that are asking questions.
Joining me now for his first interview since filing his lawsuit, Neil Heslin, along with his attorney, Mark Bankston. Thank you both so much for being here, Neil. Good to see you again. So why now? Why, after all the years of his attacks on you, why now?
Well, it's accountability and responsibility. It's going on for 4.5, 5 years. The lies, the trauma that he imposes, the pain and suffering with the lies he peddles. And, you know, to say that Sandy Hook was a hoax and it never happened, it's an outright lie. It's a total disrespect to myself, my son, the individuals who lost their lives that day, but it extends so much further than that. It's a disrespect to the community and the law enforcement, the first responders. It's not right, and it needs to stop.
Mark, as we just said, it's not just Sandy Hook, but he has been going after the Sandy Hook parents from the beginning. And I know that the Posners have been, a woman went to jail for issuing death threats to them after listening to Jones on Infowars. She's been banned from listening to them anymore, to Alex Jones, and she's sent to prison And even that hasn't stopped him.
No, it has not. There's no sign that he's going away. You know, these families tried to ignore him for years, thought that that would be the good strategy, not give him any air. And we see that doesn't work because he's not going away. He's been given his Washington correspondent, was given White House press credentials, claims to have the president's ear. We think it's time for this to end. And that's why we brought these suits. Because it's also just not about the Sandy Hook parents either. You know, these parents have seen what has happened to them for 5 years being tormented. And now they're seeing it happen to the Parkland parents. It's time for this to end. And that's why we brought this suit.
So what do you want out of it, Neil? I mean, are you looking for money damages from him, or what would you like?
I want him to clear the air on it, come clean with the whole thing. I want an apology. I want my name cleared by him, and not just to his followers, to society in general. And a letter of retraction was sent to him. The claims that it did not happen, I want him to admit to it and come clean on his lies.
Because what he does, I believe, to protect himself, he tries to protect himself legally, is he equivocates. He says, I believe the whole thing is a hoax. And then he says, but it might have happened. But some people believe it didn't. And he tries to go back and forth. And I believe, having practiced law for a decade, Mark, you tell me, that's him trying to cover his backside for when people like you file a complaint. So he can say, I never said it was factual. It was a matter of opinion. First Amendment free speech.
You know, I don't know if you saw his 10, 12-minute rant that he posted after these lawsuits were filed, but it was exactly that, Megyn. You look at that, and what it was just a lie on top of a lie. To say that he's never said this when he has repeatedly for 5 years. He keeps saying his words are taken out of context, but you can listen to him for 10, 12 minutes at a time just rail about these insane theories. And what you heard yesterday, you didn't hear anything that was taking responsibility for his actions.
No, he doesn't do that.
No. That's not in his playbook. What that was, and you heard him mention, I've spoken to my lawyers no less than 10 times. That statement was nothing more than an attempt to avoid his responsibility, and we are not going to let that happen.
He talks about how it didn't happen. Plain devil's advocate, which truer words were never spoken. I mean, that's exactly what he is doing. What has it done to your life? I mean, what happens when he goes on these tears?
Well, emotionally, it bothers you. It's hurtful. It continues to open the wound more and more. But, to have somebody come up to me and say how sorry they are about my loss, and then a second later look me in the eye and say, do I think Sandy Hook really happened? I mean, it's something that shouldn't happen. And, but it becomes a public threat and to the safety of society. He's out peddling these lies like a carnival barker. And it puts people like myself, the Posners, and other families at risk.
In danger. In danger.
Where Lucy Richards, she acted out.
That's the woman who went to jail.
For
threatening the Posners.
Yeah, and she threatened, death.
He's ginned up a lot of hate. One man, after watching Infowars and listening to Alex Jones, went up with a gun to Comet Pizza in Washington, D.C. Remember that? Remember this guy in D.C. in the pizzeria because he was believing that this was some pedophile ring run by Hillary Clinton and John Podesta? This happened during the 2016 campaign. I know, Mark, do you represent this other man who went to Charlottesville as a counter-protester to fight against the white supremacists, who Alex Jones dismissed as working for George Soros and a paid actor? I mean, over and over, he disparages people, and then there are real-life consequences to these people.
Well, actually, Megyn, the Georgetown School of Law is helping out with the representation of Mr. Gilmore up in Virginia, and they filed a suit not too long ago. And our firm has actually filed an additional suit where a poor young man in Boston was falsely accused of being the Parkland shooter, and his pictures spread across the internet, and he's been suffering for harassment. And this is a young man who's never even been to Florida.
But what about, as defamation is very hard to prove because the First Amendment is so strong and cherished in our country. And so What about the defense? Because if you can prove it was just opinion and you weren't stating it as a matter of fact, it can be a defense in defamation. So how do you get past that?
Well, first of all, I would say that, we like to encourage debate in this country. And if you have something to say about public figures or people who are involved in making policy for this country, have at it. Say whatever you want. Alex Jones has said in the past, and that's fine. It's what our country's about. But when it comes to private individuals, you can't just lie about them. You cannot just spread lies that hurt their lives. And in this case, sure, defamation is sometimes hard to prove against media outlets because most media outlets have some semblance of journalistic integrity. Here, this is textbook defamation. He made unequivocal false statements about both of our clients. And the consequences of that are so severe that I don't believe I've ever seen anything like this. And it's our opinion that this is the most vile act of defamation in the history of American media.
I'm sure I hardly need to say that there is zero question. You held your son, just as you told me. And every clear-thinking American out there believes that, Neil. They all believe that. Hold on, because I just want to tell the audience that we did reach out to Alex Jones for a reaction to Neil's appearance and these lawsuits filed against him and his company. We received no response. He did address the lawsuits on Tuesday on his YouTube channel. Here's what he said.
I had many debates and had both sides of the discussion on and would state devil's advocate that it happened exactly as they said it happened. But I've been telling the parents for years I believe their children died, and quite frankly, they know that. So I don't know why I continually then see them on the news saying, why does Alex Jones say my child didn't die when I'm not saying that? The media continues to misrepresent what I've said, especially in the last 4 years. The lawsuits that have been filed, my lawyers have actually reviewed all the videos previous to this because we knew this was coming, and the suits will be thrown out. They will be dropped because they have no merit.
I'll give you the last word, Neil.
Oh, I want to add to that, too, with the lies and the propaganda he peddled. He makes a lot of money off that and profits off of it. And he's profiting off of my loss in a tragedy that affected me. And that's not right either. But I'm not backing out of this lawsuit. If it comes to a knockdown, drag-out fight in the Travis County Courthouse, that's what it'll be.
And there is a real question about how long he can continue this with impunity. Thank you. We'll be right back.
Hello, Today fans. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking that button down there and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives.